What is going on, everybody? It is Handles, and way back in the NBA's history, there was a specific game that saved the NBA's future. And basically, basketball is a professional sport. Back in 1950, after the NBA was formed, when the NBL and BAA merged, a game between the Fort Wayne Pistons and the Minneapolis Lakers saved the NBA. Now this game hosted some of the greatest NBA's former stars, and especially the great George Mikan. And now the NBA was just recently created, every game represented a chance to win or lose a bunch of fans. Now the Pistons had nowhere near the talent the Lakers had at the time. Like, the Lakers had George Mikan, Vernon McKelson, and Jim Pollard. They just had so much talent and were the most feared team in the league. And the Pistons were sure they weren't going to win, but the coach, Murray Mendenhall, had a plan. In the stands were 7,000 fans waiting to see an exciting game of the new sport and the new league. The game started and the opening tip went to the Pistons. The ball went to the Pistons point guard, Ralph Johnson, and he dribbled up the court. And instead of trying to, score a basket, passing around, he just stood there dribbling and not moving at all. Then he and his teammates, under the orders of their coach, just decided to pass the ball back and forth and never let the Lakers touch it. Now the Pistons coach philosophy was simple. He thought that if the Lakers never got the ball, they could never score and never win the game. So the Pistons continued to pass the ball back and forth, and the Lakers were confused on what to do. They would occasionally foul the Pistons to try and get the ball back, but that would usually fail. Then everybody, not including the Pistons, were getting very frustrated. The referees kept yelling to the players and the coach to start playing basketball, but no one would listen, because there was no rule against not holding the ball forever. And at this point, basically everyone in the crowd was booing, some even leaving the arena because it was getting very boring to watch. And at halftime, the score was 13-11 in the Lakers' favor, and Mikan had 12 of those 13 points. And with the fans leaving and booing, this was quickly becoming the NBA's worst nightmare. Now the second half of this game was even worse. The Lakers decided to join in on the Pistons' strategy, and then both teams ended up holding the ball for minutes at a time. In the last seconds of the game, the Pistons had a 1-point lead, and the Lakers ended up missing the game-winning shot. The final score was 19-18, with the Pistons winning. I guess the Pistons strategy did end up working. They defeated the monster Laker team, but after the game, everybody was disgusted by it. The Lakers coach had said, "If that's basketball, I don't want any part of it." Maurice Podoloff, the president of the NBA at the time, knew something had to be done to make sure the NBA survives. He knew a game like this couldn't ever happen again. And since the fans are the ones who paid his and the players' salaries, he needed a way to make the game exciting for the fans again. Maurice said after the game, "It seems to me that the team showed complete disregard for the interests of the fans by the type of game they played. And after this game, it set a trend for low-scoring basketball games." So the day after this game, Maurice summoned all league officials and the two referees who refereed the game to a meeting. They came up with several rule changes that would be in place the coming year. One of those rule changes was to widen the lane from 6 to 12 feet. But none of their rule changes even worked. Scoring was still very low and fewer fans were coming out to every game. The NBA was losing money fast, fans were going away, and teams were beginning to fold. By the end of the 1953 to 1954 NBA season, the NBA was down to only 9 teams, and professional basketball was in big trouble. Now the NBA was worrying that the 1954-1955 NBA season would be its last. They really needed to pick up the scoring and bring all their fans back. And this is where a man named Daniel Biasin comes in. He owned the Syracuse Nationals and he studied many basketball games before. He found that in order to have a well-balanced game, each team needs to take at least 60 shots or 120 shots in total from both teams. He knew each game was 48 minutes or 2,880 seconds long, so he divided 2,880 by 120 and got the number 24. So according to his formula, a team needs to take a shot at least every 24 seconds. He decided that if a clock were to count down from 24, that every team would be forced to shoot in that amount of time or less, which would create a more fun and exciting game for the fans. So Daniel ended up convincing Maurice to use a 24-second shot clock for the 1954-1955 NBA season. Daniel was able to convince him because Maurice saw how a shot clock impacted an exhibition game scoring. And on October 30th, 1954, the shot clock debuted in a game with the Rochester Royals and the Boston Celtics, and it was a success. The Royals defeated the Celtics 98-95 with a huge jump in scoring from the previous season. With the game adding more scoring, fans were coming back and the NBA was officially saved. Maurice Podoloff even admitted himself that the shot clock saved the NBA. And that was how the dying NBA was saved, and it's funny to think that if the shot clock was never implemented, basketball might not be a professional sport today. Anyways guys, that's it for today's video. Till next time, I'm Handles, and I'm out.